Hi guys. Fair warning, you might hear some little notifications coming through. I'm trying to do a video and someone keeps messaging me. Honestly, I need a break from this person for the moment to collect my own thoughts and just uh, I'm just having problems with someone on a recurring conversation that I don't want to have anymore. Um, so, and they don't seem to get that at the moment. Anyway, um, they are a good person. I want to point that out. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just things have been kind of hot lately. I am about to read chapter 12. Sorry, chapter 11. I'm about to read chapter 11, and it's a pretty emotional chapter. Don't be surprised if I'm crying by the end of this. And not just because I'm having issues with someone. So just bear with me. This is the big one. Um, well, one of the big ones in this book. It's a big one that you're going to get. It's also the last chapter I plan on reading. I think. I don't think I'm going to read chapter 12. Don't quote me on that. Um, anyway, chapter 11. It's called Randon's Message. It has been 4 days since the Destiny reading, and the rain hasn't broken once since Jamin's death. Most of the city hasn't shown much respect or compassion toward my friend's grief. Are they too proud to say something? Why won't anybody say anything? They aren't the only ones either. Randon hasn't said a word in that time, traumatized to the point of being completely mute. Mom has tried the most to get him to talk, but all she ever gets from him is a depressed stare. Doesn't he understand the visitors will be leaving soon? That the killer could be leaving soon? The mystics have preserved Jamin's body. However, that won't last. The Healers Guild examined him and they stated conclusively that someone stabbed him in the chest. What big time investigators we have here. I didn't expect them to be like one of the 100 crime shows on Earth, but really? The elves don't have a structured law system in place. They rely on honor and honesty far too much, I suspect. I woke this morning, prepared for a rough day. I've agreed to watch over Randon until this afternoon when we begin our trek. Since Randon won't state what he wants to do with the body, the Mystics Guild will bury Jamin tonight. I'm not expecting much of a turnout. To Andaria, Jamin was just a coalhead, a foreigner that almost nobody trusted. Randon and I have been aimlessly walking around for hours when, without warning, he stops and stares at the dining tables a short distance away. I look at him and move my eyes to where his eyes are now locked. He's watching a family of 4 Oaken elves sitting down for lunch. The mid-20s mother with brown hair is laughing at her 2 young boys. The children, 4 and 6, are 4 and 6 and look like they are purposely trying to be silly. The father, also in his mid-20s, puts his arm around his wife and smiles. They appear like a perfect, happy family. I turn back to Randon, and a single tear is sliding down his cheek. I swing my eyes back to the family and notice that the father is now watching us standing there. The man's smile fades, and his expression is similar to the others who might care but won't offer condolences. Randon realizes that he has stolen the man's happy moment and resumes walking. I know how you must feel. I couldn't bring myself to talk for a month after coming here. You have to know that you are not alone, and someday you will smile again, I tell him. He keeps looking forward, and his emotion stays unchanged. That's fine if you don't want to say anything to me. I shake my head in frustration. Then I smile. It's unintentional, but I do, and it isn't a happy smile. I'm so livid that I could hiss when I breathe out. No, you don't have to say anything to me, or Mom, or my sisters, but time is growing short for them, I say and point to the foreigners. They walk in 2 days. If the killer is one of them, you have to say something. You have to. Your father needs justice. Don't you want revenge? He looks at me. His eyes lower and the space between them crinkle. I stay heavy with him, holding my ground, but after a long pause, I'm the one who caves. I only hope you don't live in regret over this. I'm on your side, but it's your decision. He relaxes and turns away. Mom's voice calls out behind us. Nate, Randon, big news. She runs to us as fast as her little legs can carry her. When she reaches us, she's huffing loudly. The priestess hasn't sent us an offer. The priestess sent us an offer. Her knight, Mistress Sin, came by an hour ago. They have offered us a place to bury him near the priestess's home tree, right at the bottom of the cliff, so everyone can see him. I look at Randon, curious to see if he approves of this, and he seems confused. Don't you understand? Nobody will dare burn down James' tree down. No one will dare burn James' tree down if it is in such a visible and sacred place. Jamie can have a place where nobody will touch it. Your father will be immortalized. He'll be a sign among the people. For a brief second, he cracks the smallest hint of a smile before closing his eyes, and Mom hugs him. Nate, what about the people? I told everyone where the funeral was going to be. Your sisters are already telling everyone who said they'd be there. Come on, children. We're on the priestess's time now. Wyston is heading up there to dig the plot as we speak. She releases her hold on Randon and takes his hand to follow her. We head home to change into more formal clothes. Though we got some good news, dressing for a funeral is never a happy occasion. When I finish dressing, I pinch the cuff of my father's coat the way I do most. Sorry guys, I'm very distracted. When I finish dressing, I pinch the cuff of my father's coat the way I do most mornings before I start my day. This time I did it for a different reason. Most times I do it because I miss him. Looking at the coat reminds me of him, of that last night I saw him. Right now, though, I think about how I never gave him a funeral. I'm only now beginning to believe he may be gone and not simply missing. I won't cry. It isn't a sudden tragic experience for me. If that were to happen, it would have happened months ago. No, this is only my acceptance of his death. And please, don't ask me what this means to you. I'm not ready to go there. It's later now, and daylight has left us. The sky is gray and darkening. We've hiked up the top of the cliff where the river falls down to our city below. The forest has thinned out up here, and yet it remains a serene, gorgeous place. This is the first time I've seen the full body of the priestess's tree. It's massive and more beautiful from this view. The trunk of this tree is so wide that someone could build a football stadium within its walls. Its distance away from us reminds me of the long journey inside the cave to get to the spiral staircase. A small gathering of people have amassed by the time we arrive at the site. Of them, I can point out Nicolette, who has come to check on Randon every morning since the event. That man is one of the few people I give credit for having the heart to show that he cares. I also see the Libus family, who are here on my behalf. I asked them to come and when I was spreading the I asked them to come when I was spreading the word about the burial. Rogar grunted at the thought of being at a cool head's funeral. However, Kandari and Suri promised they would show. Randon looks at the crowd, and I can feel how hard this is on him. We move past the little group and find Wyston with a shovel standing over a hole in the ground. Jamon's body is resting on a wooden table with a long white cloth draped over him. In front of the table are 5 kids of varying ages and races dressed in white robes. There are 2 oaken women dressed in black robes, one at each end of the table. Their hair is straight with bangs cut clear across, and their faces are remorseful. Randon, it's time. Bring us the seed, Wyston tells him. Randon reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small gray bag. After pulling out a single seed, he inches his way toward the plot. The children in the white robes begin singing a quiet, melancholic song together as a choir. Randon drops the seed into the oddly shallow hole, and Wyston places a hand on my friend's shoulder. The 2 of them step back toward us. When Randon takes his place beside me, I catch a glance from him. The reflection of his glowing eyes through the tears that balance on his eyelids bruise emotions from deep inside me. I feel like my heart is beating faster and fight to breathe. As his tear slides down his face, my face crinkles with sadness for him. No tears drop on my cheeks. I want to cry, and I do feel overwhelmed with sadness, but somehow I can't bring my eyes to water for my friend. Most human men saw holding your tears in as a strength. Right now I see it as a weakness. I just want to cry, and I can't. The 2 women in black robes turn to face each other, and their fingertips glow white as they whisper chants that I can't hear over the choir. The song has transitioned to something beautiful now. The mystics move their glowing white hands above their heads, and Jamon's body begins to glow through the white cloth to match them. The cloth over him starts to move as the shape of his body shifts. The structure of his shape begins to dissipate and shrink. The white energy seeps through the cloth and floats into the air above where his body once was, appearing like a white speck of heavenly light. My eyes take a short while to refocus, and then those flecks of light shoot up into the sky. They swirl around and present a magnificent show for everyone to watch. These magical lights fly about like fireworks on the 4th of July. The rain sparkles down off the light and enhances the display in the sky. I hope the people in the city are watching this. More to the point, I hope the killer is watching this. As miraculous as it was to watch the lights of Jamon's being, it's now more so to watch them shoot straight down into the hole that Wyston made. The plot grows from inside it for a while, and then everything goes dark. Wyston picks up his shovel and walks over to Jamon's plot. But Randon stops him. He grabs the handle of Wyston's shovel, and Wyston lets go. We all watch as young Randon buries his father. When the last scoop of dirt drops on Jamon's plot, the rain abruptly stops. Randon gazes up at the sky with a smile, and a smile grows on his face. My vision bounces to each of my family members. My mom and my sisters are sobbing. Wyston has a tear as well, but he has not lost his composure. Akram asks Randon if there's anything he would like to say to the people. Randon pauses to think, and then shakes his head. The slow walk back down and the city is rough on everyone. I follow behind Randon, watching him leaning into Mom with her arm around him. When the land flattens out from the decline, we enter the first common area of our homeland and meet a figure standing there waiting for us. It's the knightly woman who presented the priestess and accompanied her in the destiny reading ceremony. After bowing to our group, she says, "My apologies. My name is Sin. I have come here on behalf of your priestess. As she understands it, 4 children here were unable to receive a destiny reading. If you are willing, she would like to offer a special ceremony for you tomorrow evening." Both of my sisters stare at each other in shock. They are the only ones who were sad that they didn't receive a destiny reading. As upset as they were, I'm proud neither of them made a real fuss over it. Sin turns to Randon. "Will you accept this offer, child?" Weiss and Akram look at him, and he looks back, giving a stiff, small nod. They accept, Weiston tells her. Sin nods and bows again. The announcement to the city will be made tomorrow morning. Weiston and Akram thank her before we all head through the city. Nobody says anything as we walk into our den and up into our rooms. Though it might be selfish, I glance at my father's coat and whisper, "Goodbye, Father." I take a few deep breaths and close my eyes. As sad as I am, no tears show again, and it tortures me. I blow out my candle and close my eyes. I haven't had any of Jerobe's leaves since James' murder. Those leaves will have to wait until the death is a distant memory. Right now, I'm sure I get the answer to Jerobe's death, but at what cost? When I drift off to sleep, I dream I'm back on Earth. I'm at the graduation I never got to have. It was a few months away. I'm sitting in a football field and my fellow classmates are in their caps and gowns. My attention turns to the crowd watching us. I can't find my father in the crowd. I notice the clothing of the families and think of how foreign they look to me now. When it's my turn, I walk onto the stage, receive my diploma, shake Principal Parker's hand, and then look out at the crowd again. I'm desperate to spot him, and when I finally do, he's on his cell phone, not watching me. Though this event never happened, he was often on that phone when he was trying to spend time with me. I never blamed him. He was a busy man, and I never needed much attention. However, just this once, I would have liked his cell phone to be off. I wake the next morning, looking at that coat again. I get up, pull the coat off of the hook. I feel the thick leather of the collar and stare blankly at it. I take small steps and walk over to the corner of my room where many of my family's excess belongings are in boxes. I fold the coat and set it inside the one empty chrome-framed chest. I take one last look at the item before lowering the top of the chest over it. That coat was the only thing I had hanging on my wall, and now there's nothing. Weiston walks into my room and notices the area where the coat used to hang. He stares at me, and his face shifts in a way that tells me he understands how yesterday affected me. "Hurry up, son. It's almost breakfast time." The day goes by fast. The word has spread about the unusual occasion, and everyone has been staring at me more than ever. To be honest, it's bugging the crap out of me. They look at me as if they are secretly planning to sacrifice me to a sea creature. At sunset, my family sits down to eat. Everyone around us is eating a salad with some pork-like meat. The city had the meal often, and it was nothing special. When the server comes to us, several chefs I just lost my space. That was just funny to me that I said that. Um, Several chefs accompany her. They present a large barbecued bird that sits on a platter with vegetables and medium-sized boiled eggs, which are set in a row around it. It looks delicious. The families sitting next to us are all watching with cheery faces. Weissen and Akram give short bows and faint smiles as the servers and the people around us. Weissen and Akram give short bows and faint smiles to the servers and the people around us. I don't know why that just sounded weird to me for some reason. After eating, the city gets up and with us and follows us to the stage. When we enter the clearing where the ceremony is at, we learn that the priestess and Sin are already standing there, waiting for everyone to show up. The priestess is wearing a sparkling gold dress this time, rather than the long jade one. Her hair is down, and her bangs fall in front of her eyes. She looks like an innocent and sweet little girl. Sin is in a white satin dress that surprises me. This is the first time I've seen her out of her armor. The decorative design beat into her dress is simple yet elegant. Her sleeves hang in a way that exposes her shoulders, carries on far past her fingers, and drapes widely at the ends. As my sisters Randon and I walk onto the stage, Weissen and Akram shake many of the people's hands in the crowd. Each of us kids have our dream forges held in both hands, as is the custom, as we wait for everyone in the audience to settle. The priestess, Aneth, turns and stares at me for a while. I smile back, thankful of her for my sister's sake. The girls didn't deserve to lose this event in their lives. I turn to Cassinia and Sierra, who are looking at each other with smiles stretched from cheek to cheek. My eyes shift to Randon, hoping to see him smiling too, but I'm not surprised when I see that he isn't. Regardless of that, I'm happy to see him the way he is because he doesn't look sad. He simply appears indifferent. I don't know if you can hear that the cops in the background. I'm sorry about that if you do. My eyes shift to Randon, hoping he is smiling. Oh man, I lost my track again. I turn back to the crowd and spot Michelet in the same robes that he wore for the original ceremony. He's walking up onto the stage when I close my eyes, waiting for the event to start. I feel Michelet's big hands lay on my shoulders and wonder who will present my new friend. I look over at Randon, and who I find is Michelet. His hands are perched on Randon's shoulders instead of mine. Michelet glances back at me and grins. I turn my head and realize it's Weissen's hands that grace me. Weissen looks into my eyes. His flat lips grow into a proud smile, making my chest swell up and tremble. I smile back and then can't help myself from hugging him. Akram puts a hand on each of my sisters, and then the crowd grows quiet. See it starting. I scan the crowd and see that the Libuses are watching me. I wave at them, and then something happens. I spot my blood father standing next to Rogar. He is smiling, waving at me. He's wearing a lily pad tunic, like many of the others out in the crowd. I rub my eyes with one hand, knowing he couldn't be there, and when I look back, of course, he's gone. It doesn't matter because I can now imagine him being there. Good evening, everyone. You all know why we've gathered tonight. We have 4 children who are unable to receive a destiny reading. The priestess glances at Randon. That night was stolen from them, so tonight we honor our guests, each and every one of them. Randon doesn't smile, but he does return her glance. These children have waited long enough to receive their destinies, so I won't make them wait any longer. The priestess turns to my rowdy sister. Castanea, please step forward. The crowd roars with joy. Casta walks up to her with excitement in her step, and Akram follows behind her. They both bow to the priestess, and she bows back. Castanea gives her Dreamforge to Mom, so the priestess can take her hands. After the slightest touch of my sister's hand, the priestess turns the crown. Miss Castanea Rydell, you're destined to be a mystic of the dark magic. In the future, your spells will tear down large masses on the battlefield with a single cast of your potent magic pool. Castanea jumps in excitement and steals the paper from Mom's hand and throws her paper with the words Dark Mystic up into the air. Mom looks at her with pride, and the crowd motions with enthusiasm. Castanea leaves Mom with the priestess and steps back in line, and the priestess calls Sierra to the center of the stage. My sister does this with a pair of slow, jittering feet. I'm curious to know what's on her Dreamforge. She's the one who, last we heard, didn't have a profession picked out. Sierra passes the mysterious piece of paper to Mom, and the priestess takes Sierra's hand. Again, with little more than a light graze on her fingers, the priestess opens her eyes and turns to the crowd. Miss Sierra Rydell, you're a natural-born healer. You're destined to become a mystic of light, a medic who will save many lives. Sierra slowly pulls the paper from Mom's grasp and raises into the Dreamforge. With their arms gyrating in nervousness, another roar overcomes the crowd. There's an overwhelming bliss in Akram's eyes, happy that she'll see 2 Dreamforges now ready to hang up in the den. When Sierra and Mom step back in line with us, I worry that I'll be the one child without a forge. Will I become the warrior I've been training so hard to be, or will I end up like Jun and be a glorified dishwasher? Nathan Rydell, will you please join me? The priestess asks. I never had a last name in Andaria before, though I'm happy to take it as my own. I walk up to the front of the stage with Wyston behind me. I stand before the priestess, shaky and nervous. We bow, and as her head raises, she smiles at me with a twinkle in her eye. She holds out her small, white hands for me to place mine over them. I give my paper to Wyston and take her hands. As I do, I close my eyes and hope that she will call out warrior. Seconds later, I realize she hasn't decided my fate yet, in the same quick way she had my sister's. I open my eyes and see the priestess is looking at me, almost as if she's looking straight through me. She stares intensely, with her eyes shifting left and right. The expression she has is confusing. She appears frustrated. Her head tilts as if she is second-guessing the answer that's in her head. She musters, and the sound. She musters the sound while looking back at me with worried eyes, and then turns to the audience. Once she faces them, she glances at me, standing beside her one last time, before finally calling out the destined profession. She says, Tavaro. The crowd's cumulative sound is that of gasping their breath in unison. What could that word mean? Whatever it is, it doesn't mean warrior. I examine the crowd and get a mixed reaction. Faces of shock, fear, or confusion on each of the endless faces in the audience. Wyston is staring at me in disbelief. I hear quiet voices around me calling out that strange word, and Sin is looking up and down, judging me. Is looking me up and down, judging me. Our gift from Lina is a Tavaro, the priestess shouts cheerfully. The crowd talks amongst themselves, not ready to join in her happiness. Is that bad? I whisper to Wyston. The priestess turns back to me with wide eyes. No, it's not. The crowd goes silent at her sudden gesture. It is a special class of fighter. A class so rare that it has not been called out for many years, she explains. Is it better than being a warrior? Yes, it is much better than a warrior. You will outrank warriors and lead them in the battle, Wyston tells me. You will be a knight, a class of fighter focused on offensive skill. In times of war, you will not find many on the field who can match your skill, Aneth adds, with enthusiasm. Aneth, if you don't remember, is the name of the priestess. Nice, I say. However, you must be careful, she says, and stares at me with the same intensity. This role tends to bring out the worst in those people. If you let it, you will lose sight of why you become a knight in the first place. I hear a slow but growing applause coming over the crowd. In that instance, I realize this is my first chance to talk to the priestess about all the questions that only she seems to know the answers to. I have been on this planet several months and still don't know why I'm here and what happened to my body. Priestess, I have so many questions. Wyston puts my hand over my shoulder again and shakes his head. Wait until after the ceremony, he whispers. I nod my head, bow to Aneth, and then turn back to the line with my sisters. I didn't give you a third forge, I say. Wyston grins. I'm very proud, and this paper was going up on the wall either way. Randon Vax, please join me, I hear the squeaky voice of the priestess say. I watch Randon and Miquelette as they proceed in front of her. After taking his hand, she looks at him and smiles. We have another knight. Randon, you are a Velabime. I know that's a weird word. Yet again, another word I have never heard. 2 in one night, and that never happens anymore. Whatever it is, the crowd's feelings are more evident this time. First, another roar of shock. Then, the combined chatter probably turns loud to loud applause. It's a louder applause than I received. What does that word mean, Dad? A Velabime? You don't know that one either? I'm surprised, considering Joe Blibus was a Velabime. It's your opposition. Randon is a knight focused on protection. He's a valiant hero type, whereas you are more of a destructor. That's one word I didn't want to hear. I am destined to be exactly what so many of our race have become. Destructors. Can't I show the world the better side of us? I look back at Randon, now understanding the audience's reaction. Behind him, Aneth and Sin are conversing in whispers. Sin throws unhappy glances both at me and at Randon, before nodding her head to the priestess. At this time, Randon pulls the paper from Miquelette's hand. He's claiming a dream forge. He pulls the paper above his head, and the crowd once again goes silent. I don't understand why they would react this way. After bowing, Randon and Miquelette turn and walk toward us. Miquelette is trying to read the words on Randon's forge. When I get a clear view of the forge, he glances at us in surprise. When he gets a clear view of the forge, he glances up at us in surprise. In a soft voice, Miquelette says, "To be a member of the Vein." I look at the forge and then to Randon, looking back at me. I roll my eyes to the crowd as the back rows begin to evacuate. Randon, this is your chance. Point out the killer, That's all you have to do. I wait for him to respond, but he doesn't. Fine, I'll say something. I turn away to walk back to the front of the stage, but as I'm about to stand next to the priestess, who doesn't look happy with me, Randon grabs my arm to stop me. Don't, Randon begs in a whisper. I turn my head back to him in disbelief. Randon, you talked. And that is the end of chapter 11. I actually held that together better than I thought I would. I have read that chapter many times in the past and I've cried a lot harder, but I didn't want to make it hard for you guys to hear, and so I had to take a couple of little moments. Again, I'm probably not going to read 12. If I do, I will go ahead and post it, but that's officially the end of the first act. You now know that Nate is supposed to be like a dark knight. In video games, you wouldn't even know what a dark knight means, whereas Randon is more like a paladin, sword and shield type of kind of character, usually in some sort of white armor. But yeah, that is a little more than a third of the book. The first act is usually a little bit bigger than the other two acts, I think. I will tell you that the next part of it is mostly a transitional period of training. He basically is going to become that knight, but it takes place over multiple years. I don't want to say how long exactly. It won't be as many years as you think, because he will not be the same age he was the night he left for Earth by the end of the first book. Not even, he'll be a couple years off by that point. But he is going to age a little bit over the next act, while receiving his training. Anyway, I will go ahead and end that there. I wish I could have read that a little bit better for you, although all things considered, I'm kind of surprised that I did as good as I did. I also plan to do a weight loss video. I know I haven't done one in a few weeks. I've been kind of going through some things, having problems basically just staying on track. I'm not saying that I was bad, not really bad, but I haven't been quite on the tracks the way I should be, although I did lose some weight. So, alright guys, I will talk to you later. Stay motivated.